In the last few years, we've seen many companies, big companies and even small companies, being taken to courts by employees on account of unfair termination when it comes to declaring them redundant. So in today's video, I'm going to advise you, or we are going to look at how do you conduct a lawful redundancy exercise at your organization. And this is a question I keep getting from HR practitioners. Because when you look at the Employment Act, when it talks about redundancy, it's one or two sentences. The information is not enough. So what has happened is that we've had to rely on the courts, the decisions that the courts have made to be able to know or to determine the correct procedure to follow when it comes to the redundancy process. So I'll start off by defining what is redundancy. And redundancy is whenever an employee loses a job because of, and they are not at fault. It's not a performance issue. It's not a gross misconduct issue. So a good example is the company is going through tough times. A good example being COVID. So if you're letting the staff go, it is not, it's not something that they've done. Another example is technology. You've introduced new technology and you have this staff who's worked for you for the last 20 years and they can't match up with technology and you want to send them home. Or you've relocated the office, or for one reason or another, you're looking to cut the workforce, let's say because of budget issue. So these are just but examples of situations where employees might lose their job, but not because of something that they have done. Now, when it comes to redundancy, there's the bare minimum. As you know, for every year the staff has worked, you're supposed to pay them a severance pay, which is equivalent to, for every year worked, full year of service, you're supposed to pay them an equivalent of 15 days. The other bit we know is that you're supposed to inform the employee and the labor union, if the employee is unionizable. And then only after that do you inform the labor office. So you need to follow that procedure so that the redundancy process can be said to be lawful. But there are a few areas that, gray areas that employers miss, and these are the reason why you find many of the employers being taken to court. And myself, I've helped many companies, carry out the redundancy process. And I want to share with you the process, the actual process that you are supposed to follow, so that you can say you have a watertight case, that you've done it procedural, you've considered the staff, and you've ticked all the boxes, so to speak. So the first thing you need to do, if you think that there's a possibility you're going to declare some position redundant, then what you do is you write a letter to the staff, a letter to declare, with the intention to declare the position redundant. Remember, we don't make staff redundant, we make the positions redundant. So from the word go, at the beginning, that's what you do. You write a letter to the staff, to the department concerned. If it's the whole organization, you write to them, letting them know there's a possibility of the organization carrying out a redundancy exercise. Then that letter, before I go to the next step, that letter should be addressed to the individual staff, and it should not be a memo, it should not be an email, it should be an official letter. The next step is that now in the next 30 days, you're supposed to get into consultation with the employees. So within these 30 days, and this is from the code, you're supposed to see how can you avert the redundancy. So for example, if the company is not doing well, are the staff willing to take a pay cut? If someone's skills are no longer relevant in that department, can they work in another department? So this is where the element of fairness comes in. Okay, so make sure that the discussion are minuted, there are records showing that you consulted the staff. And let's say someone, they've done 20 years in that organization and they're okay, they want to rest. Then you can say, okay, I give this person a chance, and they opted to take redundancy. So before the expiry of those 30 days, if at all redundancy cannot be avoided, then you need to come up with a selection criteria. And the selection criteria, and the courts have ruled this, is for you to introduce fairness. Why? Because you've sat with the staff and you've determined that indeed some people have to go home, so to speak. Some people will be affected. So the criteria here is to say that you are objective. You tried to introduce a bit of objectivity and the fairness in the exercise. So where I've been, the clients have assisted before. We've looked at issues like performance management in the past. We've looked at the issues to do with the qualification. We've looked at issues to do with rank of service. So as factors to consider, who will remain and who is going to be affected. Now, if you've come up with the selection criteria, you've determined who's going to go home, and you've even informed the union. Remember, the union should be informed from the word go, so you should be working closely with the union. Then, when you have all that documentation, then it's for you to seek permission from the labor office. So remember, you cannot declare someone redundant until you get authority from the labor office. So, and the labor office, you write to them the letter. Then you attach for them the selection criteria. You can even attach the first letter you did, that is the letter of intention to declare some position redundant, and you can even attach the correspondence you have with the union. So from there, the labor office will judge whatever documents you've availed to them, and they'll be able to see, is it a genuine case? If they're okay with whatever you've done so far, then they'll give a go ahead. Now, when they give you the go-ahead, then you can come and terminate employment as per the terms of engagement. So if someone needs 1 month notice, you pay them 1 month notice or payment in lieu. If it's a top manager, they need 3 months notice or payment in lieu, then you have to pay them that. So two-part process here. There's a redundancy process that you've got to go through, and then there's the termination. And I believe the redundancies one is where we find many of the HR professionals struggling with. So after you're done with that one, then you can go to the termination. You look at the terms of engagement, the employment contract, and make sure that you also adhere to that. So there you have it. As you can see, there must be consultation. There must be proper documentation. You must engage the union, and you must also engage the labor office. So don't be quick. A lot of times I see employers doing is to say, okay, you've worked for me for 5 years, this is the severance pay, and this is the check, and me, I've done my job because I've already paid you. No. As we've seen in this country, especially because of the new constitution, the process is even more important than the results. In fact, I will tell you this, 99% of the cases at the labor courts is not because the employer did not pay. No, it's because they didn't follow a certain procedure. So it's very important that we be able to follow the process. So thank you for watching. The channel is to educate you to become a more competent and successful HR professional. So if it's the first time you're watching, why don't you subscribe? And I have more videos coming your way, full of tips and advice, and I look forward to engaging you further. Thank you and have a good day.